Welcome to Scripted Mind Studios. I'm Phil Seth, and we're doing an exercise we call the Dirty Hands. The cave wall at one point was the technology of our time, and all we had was just like, pieces of charcoal or minerals we ground up to kind of paint and decorate it. With humans and the human spirit, when we create, when we make stuff, at some point, we were using these tools and materials and we were able to just make a mark and identify with it. Like that little dot, that's me. That little mark represents me. We could represent like our consciousness, or like what we thought. We are the center of our universes, and we have bubbles of understanding. This is essentially where we start out at. A person with a bubble, and that bubble might be huge. Those bubbles might be created in different ways, but like essentially, this is kind of how we all start out and begin. I think there's an interesting pattern if you talk about like the circle of your understanding. Like if you start out with a center point, and I'm going to use a little spindle just as reference to draw some perfect circles. You get your circle or your circumference of understanding, or your bubble. And the idea of the artist is like to push your understanding out, to the other side, to the furthest point it can be at. And that's like our universe, like emphasis on known universe, because this is our bubble. You have a new perspective and a whole new bubble or level you've acquired, which I love, because to me, this is like the eye of creation. When the two paths overlap and this little like light shines on, or this little sun starts to birth on this horizon. And I just find it like amazing that these two shapes make the, approximately the shape of our eye. Anybody likes to draw eyes. Eyes are like one of the funnest things to draw. They're big circles, or they can be very sharp and angular. It doesn't matter. They can be like googly, cute cat eyes. You know what I mean? But the cool thing about this shape and how it leads into like kind of creative geometry is if you continue this pattern where you find the intersections around. Let's see if I can do this somewhat properly. By connecting those center points, you've made a pattern they call the seed of life. And if you continue this pattern with more circles, it makes another pattern called the flower life. You might see it on some of the stencils around here. Also brilliantly making all these other little Pisces eyes within it like a flower. This symbol is known across lots of platforms, lots of cultures, because it's in the blueprint of how we're created. Our molecules separate and divide and reproduce just in this exact pattern. These patterns are like, mathematically correct, but then we then see fit and beauty in recreating these patterns. I find a lot of creation birth in the center of it. Again, that point that's you could consider that the bindu, the creative center. That's where it all starts, because art is actually a journey, and you need to move to the limit of what you know to become a better artist. And that's where I think technology, life, all of that stuff continues to push us further and further.